So, let us continue. The next challenger, Antonstone. I will accept that challenge. Here we go. Playing with white pieces. e4, c5. So it was confirmed that video and audio are working. So I'm not sure. Maybe it was a glitch in your connection. Maybe it was down for several seconds. Can be the case as well. But for now, it seems that everything is back, right? So we have very interesting line of Sicilian here. And this queen to b6 was usually an attempt to avoid, main lines, and was like a surprising weapon. But the thing is, against so many lines here within this second e6 in Sicilian, I play setups with moving the knight to b3 voluntarily so that it doesn't really do harm, okay? And that is the thing. Bishop goes to d3. The idea is simple. I usually stick to this scheme, so just castling, then bishop to either d2 or e3. I know it's natural to put it on e3, but according to the plan, white wants to play something like f4, queen to f3, then bring the rook to e1, and taking this into account, I'm not sure that bishop on e3 is placed ideally because it actually covers the rook, and the rook supports something like d5, okay? And early d5, wow, that's interesting, but I think it's a bit risky, no? It should be a bit risky for black. Maybe it's fine though, I don't know. Let's take there. I mean, I like the idea of creating an isolated pawn on the d5. And gradually attacking it. And I don't think knight takes d5 is logical. Because, when you have an isolated pawn, your natural plan to compensate that weakness is to attack. Usually, the attack against the king is interesting. And for that attack, of course, you need as many resources as possible, right? And voluntarily exchanging pieces in this case is, as I said, not logical. So I would have captured with the pawn instead. Now, we have several interesting continuations. Since knight is no longer on f6, we may consider playing queen h5. The square is empty now. We can occupy it, attacking d5, by the way. Yeah, I like this move. Another alternative is to play bishop to e3. Since black cannot play d4, we can take it several times, and then bishop b5 check, winning the queen on d4. Typical stuff known from French defense, for example. So, queen h5 or bishop e3. Both are developing moves. Both are tempo moves. Both are quite ambitious. I like queen h5 a bit more because it stops black from castling now. And may provoke some additional weakening of the king's side. So let's do that. I could have probably combined both, like playing bishop to e3 first and then queen to h5. Well, actually, white's position is already quite promising. So now I wanted to try this move, intended to just grab the bishop. Another tempo move. Now probably indeed, forcing some weakening, or maybe forcing black to castle the queen side, which is also not very pleasant, I suppose. Let's play queen h6 now, still controlling the king side and preventing castling there. Yeah, and this should be risky, right? This should be risky for black. How to exploit it? That's a good question. First, I'm wondering if we should just exchange dark squared bishop. I think it makes sense here, because that piece is quite good in black's camp. My dark squared bishop could have been also pretty active and stuff like that, but I think since black has majority of pawns on light squares, having dark squares pretty weak, makes sense for us to exchange bishops to make that also a weakness in black's camp, in addition to isolated pawn, which is for now very well protected. Okay. Okay. So I believe white has an advantage here, but it will be not so simple to convert it. For now, though, everything looks pretty good. So what to do next? Black may want to play d4. Black may want to play d4. So we shouldn't prevent it, I think. Let it be. Let's start with this move just in case. Making the room for king. Just not to blunder it accidentally. Where is the best place for a queen? It's definitely not g5, I think. So it should be somewhere, maybe on h4, maybe on f6. I don't know. Maybe on f4. But the thing is, we have to control the dark squares better than we do at the moment. Queen b4 is sort of waste of time, I think. Because after c3, I don't see a good square for a queen except for b6 again. All right, here. Well, d4 is coming, I believe. Let's prevent it somehow. Or should we? Not sure. But let's centralize then. Rook a to d1. Additional stuff may be done to control d4 with the help of bishop b5. Maybe even exchanging that bishop for the knight. I like this idea because it's highly unlikely that black will capture on c6 with the pawn, which will definitely damage the pawn structure and the shelter of the king there. So this may be a good simplification towards the right material relationship, right? So now we have the ideal scenario for this isolated pawn, which is the knight on d4, blockading the isolated pawn against that bishop, which is quite passive, and it's really hard to activate it. So ideally, we can just exchange all the heavy pieces here, and that ending will be very good. Maybe just winning, technically. Alright, so it's a typical stuff here. So nothing new, honestly. Let's increase the pressure now on the bishop. Probably invasion is not that terrible idea. Yeah, I like my position now. Let's control dark squares a bit better. And I think knight to c6 wins now. That was the idea behind queen e3, one of them. It didn't work with the queen control in c6, obviously, but now it should, right? B takes c6, queen b6, and that's it. Either checkmate on a7, or on c7, or on b7. And against this move, what to do? Rook is protected, right? So we can do various things. I guess the easiest would be just to play queen to b6, attacking b7, c7, and rook on d8. So everything is hanging in black's camp. I think it's just it, right? It should be just it. Check. Check. And mate. Yes. So, that was already quite challenging game. Let's have a look at it quickly in the analysis board. So I believe that black made a mistake already here. Well, d5 is probably possible, no questions, but taken with a knight, I just don't like this idea. And indeed, if we look at the database which is provided here, ed5 is the main continuation. Just as I said, black wants to keep as many resources as possible because the isolated pawn is a long-term weakness, and you want something to compensate it. And as I said during the game, the normal thing to do here is to use the the type of the position, which is quite open, and hence you need some dynamics for your pieces and potentially the attack against the opponent's king. And for that play, you need resources. The more, the better. Okay, so that's why I don't think that knight d5, when you exchange the pieces voluntarily, was a good idea. Okay. Moreover, now you have some problems with the development. Probably instead of making all these tricks, bishop to e3 was just a better option for me. The idea is simple. If black plays d4, I can take, right? If I'm not blind, I'm winning the queen in this line because the king is under attack simultaneously with the queen. Typical trick, especially in French defense, for example. So black has to spend a move on, I don't know, going away, where after I can immediately occupy d4 square with the knight, which is quite good because it's the most natural blockading position here. And I can jump with the queen to h5 later if I want, right? So that was probably an improvement for white. Although queen h5 was also not bad. I played this move, g6, queen h6 here. Maybe bishop g5 was, not that ambitious. Probably something rapid like a4 deserved attention here, and then a5, a6, and stuff like that. So also combined with bishop b3 or bishop f4, I don't know. I have just noticed that there was a question about after rook e7, did bishop e6 work to try to get the rook? Well, that is exactly what happened in the game, and I played knight to c6. Probably the comment came a bit later. So there is some sort of mismatch, I think. All right. So bishop g5 was just a, simple technical decision to exchange, again, another pair of minor pieces, simplify the position even more, which is good when you play against the isolated pawn. And usually when you play Blitz, I think that is exactly what you need, something really simple, just avoiding positions where you have to calculate a lot. So that is what I wanted to get, right? So the knight against that bishop, is a typical advantage. Now everything I need to do is just to play on dark squares, gradually, simplifying this stuff, getting the knight versus bishop ending, still having this pawn structure. And since black has a lot of dark square weaknesses here, where my king can go, for example, potentially, I think I have very good chances. Although I believe that in this particular case, it was already black's best strategy just to simplify the things now and go completely passive, trying to survive it. Simple as that. Maybe here I can even jump to h6, by the way. Also annoying, right? Immediately attacking h7. But in this particular case, maybe something like queen e7 is possible, intending some counterplay here. I don't know. Still having some chances, right? It's not very pleasant, but there are still some chances to survive it. But what black did was probably not the best thing to do, because now I'm just dominating here. I'm controlling the stuff, and I can force further exchanges on my conditions if there are any. All right, rook d7 was probably a move here, in which case I can play rook e8, just keeping the rook on the board. Let's say rook d7, rook e8, rook back. Now I can take, and then queen goes to e5 with a complete domination in the style of Akiba Rubinstein, for example. So if you want to learn, some great central queen moves, just look at the games of Akiba Rubinstein. So here, as you can see, white controls just literally the whole board with just two pieces. Okay. Well, was still playable though. And here I play queen e3 because I understood that well. Queen is misplaced in the light square because black's major weaknesses are on dark squares. And bishop e6 was a nice try, but unfortunately there was this knight to c6 refutation. So instead of doing bishop e6, of course, black should have tried something else, just keeping c6 under control, but it's getting harder and harder to actually stay passive here because, you know, white can improve the position in various ways, like f4 or maybe a4, a5, b4, b5, while black is doing absolutely nothing here. So everything is very too passive, right? So annoying stuff. Okay, so I hope now it's a bit more, you know, understandable why you lost and what could have been done to improve your play.